How's it going, everybody? Welcome into the SFS channel and another trade episode here. In this video, I'll be talking through some fantasy football running backs and my plans for these players here as we enter into what is potentially and likely the final week of the trade season for the majority of your leagues if you've not already passed that threshold already here. So December 1st, a date to watch for those of you playing in ESPN-based formats. That is their league-wide default setting date for the trade season to end here. So keep your eyes peeled for that. As always, if you guys have any trade questions, let me know that stuff down in the comment section below. I'm here to help you guys out. And of course, want to be a tool and a resource for you throughout this week. So the fantasy playoffs are nearing here. We're making some moves to finalize our teams and kind of set things in stone here. Of course, we still have the waiver wire as a tool and obviously all that stuff that comes along with that. But today, trade season ends, at least here on the channel, so let's dive into today's video. All right, here we go. So we're talking through 6 names in today's episode. I don't know if I prefaced this in the intro, but we are going to be talking buy, sell, and hold candidates for this running back group with potentially a couple of different scenarios for some of these players. So first and foremost, Christian McCaffrey, pretty significant development in his backfield here that I think opens the opportunity, if you can get a fair price for him, buy him for the kind of dip stock he's had as of late, as his ceiling has looked to trend downward here post acquisition from the San Francisco 49ers. Elijah Mitchell has been kind of a pesky nuisance in this offense and really frustrated a lot of CMC owners as a result of seeing his fantasy stock dip. But now we're seeing that sort of situation be no more here. 6 to 8 weeks is the next time we'll be seeing Elijah Mitchell on the football field as he suffered a sprained MCL, and that opens the door wide open for CMC here to take over, take grasp of the backfield. Well, obviously he's the starting running back, the most talented player here, the most dynamic running back in this backfield, but he hasn't been on full display. So now it looks like if they want to use that secondary role, they're going to have to turn to Jordan Mason, a running back that is actually a rookie this season. So for me, it looks like CMC could be in for a larger workload here. Better news for 49ers, or not, excuse me, bad news for 49ers fans. Good news for fantasy football owners that are looking for some more touches out of this running back. Now, the one potential concern that popped up this afternoon, Monday afternoon, I'm recording this Monday evening, so one thing that I didn't have information on at the time that we do now, and obviously you guys have access to, is the fact that McCaffrey is actually dealing with some knee irritation here, so that's something to watch. If that will dissuade you, rather, stay away. I think that it's overall something that can be fine. I think that the usage hopefully won't push him over the edge. That might be more incentive for the 49ers to utilize Jordan Mason. So at the very least, if you're a CMC owner, I'm holding here, but it is a potential buy low opportunity with that production being a bit dipped. You could get him for a price that you otherwise would not have in previous weeks this season. Next up, here's some slightly injury-related news. Let's talk through Travis Etienne. I am 100% going in on Travis in any situation where I feel I can get my hands on him with the injury he sustained that caused him to score like 0.3 fantasy points here in week 13. I'm not concerned about this injury at all because the news we've gotten out of Jags camp has been extremely positive. Now, some players just completely flip a switch and go nuts and just can't contain themselves whenever they see that questionable tag, which Etienne currently has as his injury designation heading into a week, and that's as a result of his foot injury. Now, it's kind of scary because he does have a history, obviously missed his whole rookie season with a foot, but for the most part, I think that Travis should be fine here. He was apparently cleared to return in Week 12 against Baltimore. It was a tough matchup. I was glad to see their conservative nature here reserve him for future weeks and get JaMychal Hasty out there. At the end of the day, I'd rather have my star player for the rest of the season as opposed to trying to push it and push your luck here and potentially suffer a re-injury. So feeling good about him coming back in this offense. I loved the cautiousness again from this Jag staff. He should again. As I said, it looks like all injury concerns should kind of be out the window here as far as Week 13 is concerned. Now, if we take a look at his rest of season schedule, it's very solid here. He's at Detroit this week, a great matchup. Then at Tennessee, that one might be a bit tougher. Dallas has really struggled to stop the run. That could be a nice one there. The Jets, that's another stingy one. But Week 17, circle that on your papers, ladies and gentlemen. against the Houston Texans, the worst running defense in the National Football League, and a division matchup here. Could potentially get some league-winning numbers out of him if you make it that far in your fantasy leagues this season. Brian Robinson here, my first sell candidate of the week, coming off of easily his best game of the season and his career. He had his first scoring contest over a 4 yards per carry clip. That is one of the main reasons I'm looking to sell him here. We don't have a proven track record of consistent high average production. That's very underwhelming for him to be starting these games and not be averaging over 4 yards per carry. That's kind of the baseline threshold that you look for, and the National Football League has seen an above average total in terms of NFL running backs and their yards per carry marker, because a lot of teams are seeing lighter boxes with the threat of the passing game and what that represents for their teams. So for B-Rob here, he also had just a 48% snap count percentage this week. I'm not a big fan of the whole split backfield dynamic. You're going to see another running back in this video that I'm looking to move off of for similar reasons. You're just kind of playing the guessing game here, which one's going to hit in a given matchup. They've had solid matchups throughout this season. I'm just not overly in love with the fact that he can consistently be a continual lineup piece for me, an RB2 or an RB3, depending on his weekly status. He is, of course, this team's best goal line back, just purely based off of size. He's a physical runner. He's probably going to win Kyle Brandt's angry runs this week. Actually, if they come out with those on Monday morning, then it's probably already out here. I don't watch the NFL Network. I watch the FS1 shows. So anyways, that was just a total random offbeat comment there. But B-Rob, at the end of the day, bottom line, I'm looking to sell here. I do think that there are some warning flags and risks, some reasons to move off of him while his stock is raised up a bit here. Ezekiel Elliott, another sell candidate for me. Again, going back to the split backfield nature here. You look at this one, 59% to Tony Pollard this past week, 51% to Zeke Elliott. Zeke was the more effective player, 16 rushing attempts, 92 yards in week 12. Tony Pollard was a little bit less effective, didn't rip an explosive run, didn't find the end zone. So as a result, 3 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks for Zeke Elliott, in pretty convincing wins here. You've got yourself 16-plus point games in back-to-back contests. Again, 3 total touchdowns in the last 2 games. So inflated value, inflated stock. I just don't like gambling on the fact that he needs to score a touchdown. If you're very, very weak at running back, then I guess you can hold on to him as a lower end number 2. But for me, he's a bit more of a streaky high-end RB3 in any format, I guess, besides standard, because if you're getting those touchdowns, that he's going to be a high-level player in that format. But, of course, with the nature of this being a good football team, you could try and count on those touchdowns. It's just a dangerous game to play and something that I try to avoid as often as I possibly can. So the reality here, I expecting 15 to 16 touches for both of these players each week. Dallas should know, based on their team analytics, they are a much more successful football team when they run the ball more than they pass. However, game script sometimes gets in the way with that, but we'll see how things play out here down the stretch. Josh Jacobs, I hate that I'm even bringing this up here, and this is not necessarily a clear-cut sell designation. For me, this is a more hold unless. So there are literally probably 2 players that I would look to sell Josh Jacobs for right now if I was offered them. Now, I'm not actively shopping Josh, but he is coming off of one of the more monster performances of this season, having over 300 yards from scrimmage and being incredibly impressive in this game. Was an 86-yard touchdown run to win the football game in overtime. Now, not saying that this should have been expected, because it absolutely wasn't, but this type of matchup makes sense. If you look at Seattle's run defense throughout this season, they've been awful. They have been solid against the pass. They have absolutely sucked against the run. So for Josh in this matchup, this was probably his easiest remaining game left on the schedule. He does have a favorable opponent against the Chargers at home this week, but from there on out, the only reason I would look to sell Josh, if you so choose, for Austin Eckler or Derrick Henry. Again, those are the 2 players. I'm not even so sure I'd do it for Saquon, who's got a pretty difficult rest of season schedule, or even a Christian McCaffrey, who we talked about earlier in this episode, but with that knee issue, maybe not, depending on how much you're willing to give. Let's not forget here, Josh Jacobs is the current fantasy football running back too. He is actually the RB1 in standard format. So he has been absolutely a league-winning player at this point. I'm not trying to take anything away from him here. Again, there's only 2 players I'm selling him for. And other than that, we're holding. But this is what scares me. A brutal schedule in the fantasy playoffs. You've got the Rams, who If they self-destruct and continue to implode, you can see Josh have success against this team because their defense is on the field for so long. Aaron Donald just got injured, so that potentially gets a little bit lighter, maybe a little bit less scary. Bodes well for Josh Jacobs owners, which I am in many leagues, so I'm not trying to hate on the guy here. Then you've got New England. That is a tough matchup. The Patriots are very good at taking away opposing teams' best threats, that being Jacobs and Devontae Adams. Then you've got Pittsburgh. That's kind of middle of the pack. What scares me the most is with the money on the line, all the marbles for, your league championship here. He's got San Francisco in the title match, who we watched just abuse, annihilate, and embarrass the New Orleans Saints, and more specifically, Alvin Kamara, who lost 2 fumbles against them here. So, for me, it's not an all-out bail here. As I said, 2 players. Context here, guys. But it is a nerve-wracking playoff schedule, knowing that Josh, arguably one of your best players in your entire roster, may not be at his best here as we move into crunch time for the season. So I'm going to say it one more time. I'm holding in all but 2-ish scenarios here, depending on if you get a package offer or whatever the case is. We're talking straight up trade deals here. But for Josh Jacobs, just stuff to think about. I had to talk about him after this week. It was obviously one of the performances of the season, just behind Joe Mixon in his game. So all impressive stuff that we like to see there. Dameon Pierce, the last player I'll be talking through in this episode of the Houston Texans. This is another kind of interesting blurred line situation. It's going to be incredibly hard to sell Dameon Pierce for relevant capital in return for your roster, something that's actually going to make a difference for your teams. But if you can, I would. This has come to be a disaster. The cracks are finally showing in Houston's offense, and reason for optimism is all but almost entirely out of the picture here. So for Dameon Pierce and this Houston Texans team, it's now become a quarterback problem. Between Davis Mills and Kyle Allen, neither of those guys are the answer. When you look at the situation in the passing game, stemming from the quarterback issue, there's no balance to this team. They're getting behind fast into negative game script situations, and that creates a nightmare. This is just like 2020 J-Rob here, where the Jags, as the season progressed, started to kind of erode, and then you saw their flaws and problems, and overall the ceiling for him got, kind of eliminated a little bit there. So you're seeing this in a more extreme case here of Dameon Pierce. His remaining schedule is also effing brutal. You've got Cleveland with Deshaun Watson in a revenge game coming up here in Week 13. Then you're at Dallas. Then you're against Kansas City, at Tennessee, Jacksonville, and at Indy. All of those games, except maybe the Colts, you are significantly outmatched. It's on the road at Indianapolis as well. Let's not forget that part of the equation here. And then Jacksonville, a team that's starting to pick up right here, and they're playing with fast and confidence. They've got the far better quarterback in this matchup as well. I hate the outlook the rest of the year for Dameon Pierce. Now, the flip side of this argument, because again, you'd be selling low in most cases, unless someone makes an idiotic offer to you, is you're going to have to hold. Now, I am absolutely under no circumstances making a move to buy low for Dameon Pierce right now, because I think that the situation has just become too bad, and it's not something that I immediately was willing to jump on here, but now we are officially in that boat. The remaining playoff schedule and just the teams that are facing, the projected game scripts there, it's all too much for me to want to handle or want to try and sift my way through. So I will be looking to sell if someone is dumb enough to make me a great offer, or I'm just going to hold and, cross my fingers that things get better, because I think it's going to be very difficult to, get more than a fair offer for him at this point. So there you guys have it. To recap, Christian McCaffrey, we are potentially buying based on the trade price, and hopefully we get positive news about that knee issue. Travis Etienne, we are absolutely buying. I'm very confident in his health here entering into Week 13. B-Rob, I'm looking to sell after his best game of the season. Ezekiel Elliott, we are also looking to sell after 2 back-to-back strong performances. And then Josh Jacobs, you are holding after his monster performance, except those 2 very specific scenarios, or if you can get another guy plus a significant enough package in return for him. And then Dameon Pierce here, we are holding or hopefully selling if someone, again, wants to be an idiot. So there you guys have it. If you guys enjoyed today's episode, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel here. Check out our other wide receivers episode here for trade advice in Week 13, and I'll see you there. Peace out.